What's up, students? What's up, parents? Shooting you this video because camp is in a week and a half, believe it or not. Super excited about Student Camp 2024. Glad you've registered for that. You're sending your students. And every year, a week before camp, we have a pre-camp meeting. What I've realized the last few years is that meeting tends to be really tough on all y'all's schedule, and I just wanted to try this year to be mindful of that. So I'm just going to go over all the camp details in this video for you, and you can certainly call me or shoot me a text with any questions that you have about summer camp, and you'll know everything you need to know at that point, and we'll all be better for it. So camp starts July 14th. And we will be eating lunch here at the church after second service and then heading out after we have finished eating, just like we did last year. So what I would recommend is that you bring your bag fully packed, ready to go to camp or to church that morning, so that when we're ready to load it for camp after church, everything is already here. If you don't want to leave it out in your car because it's hot, just bring it on inside, and we will put all of our bags that morning before church that come inside in we call it the cave room. It's the classroom that's directly behind the library. So when you go down that hall, the first one to the right, we'll just stow everything in there that morning until after service. So just going to go down my list here of what we need done before we get to that point. First of all, I've sent out a registration incomplete email to some of you. Some of you registered and did not get all the details completed on your registration. I was able to turn that off so that nobody else could finish the registration, but some of y'all got in before that was shut off. So I need you to finish up all the details on those registrations. All that information is super important for us to have. Secondly, within the next several days, a payment due reminder email is going to come to you. That's going to be through a Hayes Hills email through Planning Center, and it's going to give you a link to log into your registration and pay your balance. If you're unable to pay your balance, I just want to ask that you reach out to me and we can have a conversation about that. Always try to be really flexible with y'all on that, but do need to have conversations to make sure we know where everybody's at on that. So then when we get to the church, when we're at the church after second service and we're getting ready for food for lunch and for leaving for camp, I need parents to not leave their student here until you have verified that your student is fully checked in for camp. And we'll have a table set up with some of our awesome chaperones helping out. They'll check the list and make sure your registration is complete. And they'll talk to you about things like medications that need to be turned in at registration. So we'll make sure we got all the autographs we need, and we'll make sure medications are accounted for, and we should be good to go. We have locked medication boxes that we're going to be taking medication in. We'll have volunteer our chaperones will be assigned to each cabin, guys side, girls side, for distributing medication. The camp has a form that we'll fill out each time we distribute medication. I know all that sounds like a huge pain, and it is, but that's the world that we live in, and for good reason, right? We don't want medication just around the cabins where students who may not know what it is or isn't are taking it or offering it to other students, and so we have to be really careful on that. So we will be collecting all medication and distributing it. If you have questions or concerns about that, then I will need you to reach out to me. One thing that's changed on that is even allergy medication will have to be accounted for in the medication bin. I know there's always questions about vitamins. If they are in a pill form, I'll need those turned in as well. And that's just state of Texas rules that are making us do that. Like I said, I know it's an inconvenience for you, it's an inconvenience for us, but I fully support why they're trying to protect everyone and how they're doing it. So we're gonna have to have that stuff turned in. Let's talk about the schedule for camp. Once again, we talked about leaving for camp. We're gonna be here after church. So if you don't attend church here at Hayes Hills, I need you to have your student, if they're gonna eat lunch with us, we're gonna have pizza. You're totally welcome to feed them before you drop them off. If they're gonna eat with us, I need them here by 12:15. And if they're not gonna eat with us, I need you here by 12:45. And that's so we can get you all checked in, make sure you're good to go, and get the trailer loaded up so we can head off to summer camp. We will then be driving to Crockett, Texas, which is east of College Station, and that's about 3.5 hours from here that we'll be driving. And we will load up the church vans. We have a rental van, and then some of our chaperones driving. The way that we load up for trips, we've struggled to find the way. It's always chaos, so people want to sit where they want to sit. We just go by seniority, so we'll have our grads and seniors pick their seats first, then our juniors, and so on and so forth. So we'll load up that way and head on to camp. When we get to camp, we will get cabins situated and the trailer unloaded. We'll have a quick meeting with all the students about some specific rules at the camp, show them things like where you should and shouldn't be hanging out, that kind of stuff. All will be there, and then we'll eat dinner and we'll be off and running for camp. I cannot stress enough with the whole process of gathering and loading up and heading to camp that I cannot, under any circumstance, have a student join us that does not have their forms completed 100%. So make sure that those forms are completely good to go. If your student is being dropped off by somebody other than you, riding with a friend, all that stuff is great. Make sure those forms are fully filled out before you send them, or we're going to be giving you a call. It's going to be inconvenient for you and for us to try and get that stuff done so that your student can come with us. I cannot bring a student that does not have forms completed. We will return from camp on July 18th. That is Thursday, and we plan to be back here at the church no later than 1 o'clock. That is our goal. Obviously, traveling can bring difficulties, but we plan to leave the camp after breakfast at about 9:30 a.m. and get back here by 1 o'clock. That means we will not be feeding them lunch on Thursday, so your students will be hungry when you pick them up. So please be here by 1. Also, if you have not signed up for our text messages, make sure you have done that before you leave. There's not a trip specific texting for this trip, but rather I will just send out any important information via the Hayes Hills students text messages. If you're not sure how to sign up for that, go ahead and reach out to me, and I'll make sure that you get the instructions on that. I'll also include that in an email I send out with more instructions as well. Like I said, we'll be back no later than 1 o'clock. Students will be hungry. Please be on time for pickup. As you can imagine, camp is a long week for all of the adults who are helping out, and just to love them well. If we can have students picked up in a timely manner, that means they all get to go home and get rest. And so we want to make sure that we're loving all of our volunteers and chaperones well and being here on time to pick up our students. Here are some rules for camp that I would like for you as parents to hear, just so you know some of the expectations for students while we are at camp. Always keeping in mind that we are guests at this camp. Yes, we've rented out the entire camp, and so that gives us right to all the space that we have, but it doesn't belong to us, and so we want to make sure students recognize and realize that making smart decisions and respecting the property that we're on is super important. We want to leave the camp better than we found it in any way that we can. Cabins will be assigned by gender and grade. And so there's 2 cabins, a guy's cabin and a girl's cabin, and each of those cabins has separate sides. And so we'll have a middle school guys and high school guys, and in the other building, a middle school girls, high school girls cabin. And that's how we'll break things out. There may be students who want to deviate from that. And if there's girls that are hoping to switch sides, they can talk with the chaperones in their cabin about that. Guys, the same. We'll let them figure that out in the cabins, but that is how we will initially set that up for sleeping arrangements. The cabins are off limits to enter if it is not your own cabin. And so I don't think, obviously the gendered cabins matter. Like, obviously we don't want guys going in the girls' cabin and girls going in the guys' cabin, but I don't think that students who are not on one side or the other need to be going into the other side of the cabin, unless there's if there's a group of guys hanging out on one side of the cabin, that's fine. But I just ask that students only enter their own cabin other than those circumstances. And there will be no hanging out of guys and girls in a cabin in any form, even in a group. That is not allowed. We ask that students during our free times, each afternoon we'll have a couple hours of free time just to hang out. There's a game room there, there's a swimming pool, that kind of stuff. We will ask that students hang out in groups of 3 or more. We believe that 3 or more creates safety and accountability. And so we can avoid a lot of problems if students stay in groups of 3 or more. And so when we find students that are not in a group of 3 or more, they're going to be hearing about it, and they'll get a warning or 2 from us, and then we might have to take some measures of having them spending their free time with chaperones if they've proven that we can't trust them and that warnings have done nothing to alleviate that. We have a 0 tolerance policy on pranks. There are no pranks allowed at camp. Pranks can be very fun, and I've seen and been a part of some that I think were pretty funny. But what is true in all of those pranks is that somebody was the butt of the joke. And so pranks get out of hand really easily. They get escalated too much. And so we just ask that any pranks that you're planning, thinking about, students, we want none of that. If pranks are happening, the first thing that's going to happen is a phone call to parents, and depending on what has happened from there, possibly even sending a student home. But at the very least, there's going to be phone calls home and discussions about how to handle things, because we cannot tolerate pranks happening. We ask that students be where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there. So the schedule for camp will be displayed at every session, and we'll make sure you know what we're doing every time there's an event that we're all together doing. Outside of some couple hours of free time in the afternoon, we'll always have something planned, and students are required to be at those things. And so as we talk about that, students are never obligated to participate in something they don't want to do. We will encourage them to do so, but they are obligated to be in the location that thing is happening, so we know where they are at. So when a student wants to go hang out in their bunk alone because they say they're tired, that type of thing, no, unless they're ill, that's not going to happen. And on the illness policy, first of all, we ask if your student is sick leading up to camp, that you follow our wellness policy. And so a fever, vomiting, any signs of illness or a cold, including congestion or coughing leading up to camp, we ask that they're free of those things for 24 full hours, a fever being anything over 100 degrees. Full 24-hour separation before that. So Saturday night, if they're not feeling well, as much as I hate it, they're not going to be able to come with us to camp. Now, if by Sunday they're feeling fine and 24 hours goes by, Monday morning you want to bring them, you want to drive them to camp, you can certainly reach out and we can work that out. But I'm definitely going to be as strict as I can on that for a lot of reasons. But we want to protect and honor and respect everybody who's there, and showing up sick does not love the others at camp well, and so we need to avoid that at all costs. If a student gets sick at camp, during camp, we will then isolate them the best that we can, and there will be a phone call home about how to handle getting them home. once we realize a student is ill and likely contagious, we will have to work on what it's like to get them home from camp at that point. So Lord willing, we won't have to deal with any of that, but we are taking with leaders over 90 people to camp. So got to be aware that those things are possible. What to bring, what not to bring list, I will include in an email that goes out to all registrants. Registrant meaning whatever email you registered with, probably parent email unless the student registered themselves. That's where you'll get that. And I'll also attach the forms that need to be filled out to that, and I'll have printed copies at youth group both tonight, July 3rd, Wednesday, and next Wednesday, July 10th, so students can bring those home from there. Some other notes, this is a very large group. I believe it's going to be, again, for consecutive years, a record for the most people we've taken anywhere. As much as we'd like to do something like rent a charter bus or more rental vans, we've extended the budget as much as we can while trying to keep camp costs low, which does mean we'll have to take a caravan of 8 or 9 vehicles. So just so you're aware of that, we'll all be following one another. I usually take the lead vehicle to control speed limit, just make sure we're going the right speed and being as safe as possible for that. I think that wraps everything up. I know this video felt long, but like I said, trying to avoid making you come in for an extra meeting this year. My phone number is 512-516-9132, and my email is greg@hastils.com. Please reach out if you have any further questions about summer camp. Excited about Student Camp 2024. It's going to be a blast, and we'll see you then.